Buddy, you are watching Sight Sounds Flavors live here on YouTube. I was going to start doing this on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I was like, you know what? I'm here in my private office in Middletown, Jeffersontown. I figure let me just jump on here. Let's talk while I have my big gulp. And so anything you guys want to ask me, here it is. This is the time to do it. I want to talk about Darrell Brooks, Waukesha trial, my major car repairs, travel, pizza, whatever, anything goes. I did not plan this. I'm just sort of doing it at the moment. But any questions you guys have, if you're a regular or if you do a super chat, I'm going to answer your questions first. So it's not just about buying your way in. If you're a regular, meaning that you comment on stuff, you like stuff, you're just a regular, you're going to go first, then the super chats, and then, of course, new people. But you got to subscribe to the Sight Sounds Flavors YouTube channel. And I'm going to get a little bit better because I've got like a backdrop here, but it's black. And I've heard that the green screen is the better way to go. But guys, be sure to smash that like button and let's get some questions here. So today I did a video on Darrell Brooks Jr. Actually, I did one yesterday where I was talking about a clip where he basically says, this is like towards the closing arguments, and he says, you know, all of the emphasis has been put on me, the defendant, you know what I mean? But he said basically, you know, prosecution team, they didn't care about the victims. You know what I mean? Woohoo, we're live, of course. Now I can't think of a single question, says Kimberly Martin. Well, it's okay. They'll come to you, Kimberly. Don't worry. But I wasn't sure, and I said on my video, I wasn't sure if Darrell was trying to take one last jab at prosecution team. Let's not forget that this is a guy who hated Sue Opper. He couldn't stand her for the one and only reason that he could never intimidate her. Now, I want you guys to kind of think about this because he was able to successfully, you know, intimidate. And I'm not speculating here because Judge Darrell has said, this man is staring at me. This man is scaring me. And she had to leave the court, right? Now, Judge Darrell was a good 30, 40 feet away from Darrell. Darrell was chained to the table and could not get to the judge even if he wanted to. He would have had to have dragged that table, gotten tackled down by all the bailiffs, and Judge Darrell still had the ability to get out because there was a door right behind her. But she was still intimidated by him, and it's okay. Sue Opper was literally 5 or 6, maybe 8 feet away from him because sometimes she would also sit at the end of the table closest to him. And he was never able to successfully scare her. If anything, I think she scared him. And then Zach Witchow, you know, he became Darrell's like mortal enemy when he brought up the fact that Durl, you know, groomed Erica Patterson. He hated Sue Opper because a woman that stood up to him and didn't put up with BS. You are right. Absolutely. He couldn't stand the fact that Sue wasn't scared of him and that Sue read him the riot act each and every time. But Sue also gave it back. The defendant, that was Sue Opper giving it right back to him. And of course, she couldn't admit to that. So she said, Your Honor, sometimes I sit far away, I can't hear. Whatever she said, I don't believe it. She gave it back to him. That was one instance, and there were a few others where she gave it. Now, of course, you know, she's not going to admit that. She clearly said defendant in a way that, you know, it was, you know, intended to get under Darrell Brooks' skin. Now, there is another clip that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. And this is what I do. You know, I've seen so many channels now where they're like literally do a little intro for like 30 seconds and then they'll play like 4 hours worth of footage. If that's what they want to do, that's great. That's not what I do. And so one of the things, and I know that a lot of you have said, why am I not doing more videos? Well, it's because, guys, I've had my car in the shop for 2 weeks. I've had to drop thousands of dollars to get this thing done. I don't want to buy a new car. You guys know I'm a lawyer. I do well, but I don't want to buy a car because it's like the cheapest car is like $15,000, $20,000 if I want to get a CarMax warranty on it. And the engine that's being put, I'm having a new engine put into my car. It's just putting me like not in the poorhouse, but I'm a little bit strapped here, taking ride share everywhere. And this office that I'm at, this is where I do all of my stuff. This is not my 9 to 5 office. This office here is in Jeffersontown, which is a suburb of Louisville. I work in downtown Louisville. So to come here, I've got to take like 3 Ubers or whatever. But I do it, and I love this office. And I should get my car back on Monday. But that's why I haven't been doing so many videos. But I've got a video coming out probably tomorrow, and it's about the shock devices. And you know, Darrell Brooks did not have shock devices on. This is a big lie that he perpetuated. He wanted the media to carry it. He wanted the public to think that, you know, he was getting, you know, treated like, you know, some sort of a political prisoner or something. And the thing is, it's crazy because he's like, the public needs to know. The jury needs to know that I had a shock collar on or shock restraints on. And you know what's crazy is that Darrell, in his mind, he thinks that people care, that maybe he gets zapped by a little bit of electricity. The reality of the matter is that if you were to poll the nation, poll the world, most people would want Darrell Brooks to have a seat on Old Sparky. They don't care about a little zap. They want him to get, you know, lit up because of the fact that he murdered half a dozen people. He injured and maimed dozens of others. He drove a car into a parade that had children and women and senior citizens. I don't think people cared if he was going to get zapped by a little bit of electricity. He never had a shock on anything, says Pips. Absolutely not. But it was part of his whole angle of painting this alternate reality. Now, Sue Opper, she didn't care. Zach Witchow, he didn't care. Basie, she didn't care. But Judge Durl was just so, she fell for it. Because Judge Darrell really wanted this trial to hold up over time as being not just a fair trial, but above and beyond a fair trial. And I think that she was just putting so much into it, and she was falling for all of these little tricks. Jay says, first-time subscriber, I love your videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You guys know that sometimes, you know, I'm debating whether or not I should continue doing this or not. People out there say, you know, let's move on to other trials. I've gotten a lot of people giving me some trials that they want me to cover. But the thing about it is, a lot of the trials that people want me to cover, they're good trials, but we don't have the amount of footage that we do with the Darrell Brooks trial. The Alex Murdaugh trial, we have a lot of footage as well. And I'm actually going to be covering the retrial. To me, it's fascinating that he's getting a retrial. This is a guy that's guilty as sin. This is a guy whose entire story changed. I love legal advice. Thank you, Jay Stevens. Absolutely. And I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just giving my legal observations. But, you know, here's a guy who's guilty as sin. Here's a guy who had a dream team-esque type lawyer group there in South Carolina and had a whole defense and a whole answer to everything, you know, and gave the SLED officers, which is like South Carolina's like elite police unit, all sorts of answers to all sorts of questions. You know, here he is, this guy that embezzled all his money, stole money from his clients, battled a drug problem, poor him, you know, victim, lost his family. And then right towards the end of the trial, this little Snapchat video comes out that throws everything that he has said out the window. And now he's got to recreate a whole story so as to make himself not look guilty as sin. The bottom line is Alex Murdaugh is guilty as sin, but he's getting a new trial. And the judge that ruled on his original case where he was found guilty as sin now has recused himself because it was his clerk that basically contaminated the jury with her opinion that Alex Murdaugh was guilty. So it's you know, it's one of those like resets where Alex Murdaugh and his team, his legal team, they're going to get to see all of the mistakes they made for the first trial and make sure not to repeat them for the retrial. And that retrial, it's going to be a whole new group of jurors. They're going to get to start out fresh. He's probably not going to take the stand. And he may get off. So I definitely will be talking about that. But Darrell Brooks is definitely not going to get a retrial because of the fact he represented himself. Had he allowed the two attorneys that he had initially to represent him, who knows? Getting a retrial doesn't mean that you get to walk away. It doesn't mean that at all. But, Darrell Brooks Jr. was not going to get a retrial either way. He might have gotten 400 years instead of 800 years. But you know what? I mean, the reason that we're so obsessed with this trial is a variety of factors. A lot of it is the stupidity of this guy, but also we've got a growing number of people on YouTube that are coming out to this guy's defense, and that's pretty crazy. Now, the people that come out to his defense, it's a wide gamut. Now, guys, I want to see more comments. I'm not trying to beg you for comments, but I want to see them. Questions as well. But we're going to kind of delve into this. Originally we said we are going to do this on Tuesday nights at 7. We're still going to do it Tuesday nights at 7. I'm going to prepare more. I'm going to put out more graphics. But I mean, I just wanted to just jump here on do it because I was just thinking of the fact that this was like the third week that I said I was going to do it, and I just didn't do it. And sometimes you just kind of have to dive into it. And then eventually maybe I'll have some bells and whistles back here. I mean, this is a black screen back here. So I should be able to do a backdrop. I could be in Rome one week. I could be in Timbuktu the next. But I don't think you guys are watching because of the backgrounds and the bells and the whistles. I think you guys are watching because of the commentary. And I think that I am one of the few YouTubers that has commentary. Like I said, there's a lot of channels that'll take 4 hours of footage and maybe they'll ring a bell in the background or something, or somebody will come out and laugh or something. That's not what I do. In any event, I think that the reality of the matter is that we watched this trial because of Darrell's stupidity. And even though that may seem to be all it is, there's more to it than that. Yeah, that's nuts. How can anyone defend Brooks or say he didn't get a fair trial is beyond me, says Pips. Absolutely so. I think the black screen and black t-shirt look really cool. Thank you, Kimberly Martin. I appreciate it. But with regards to the people that are defending Brooks, I think it's a really wide gamut. If we were to say that how many people actually think that he's innocent, I think that number would dramatically reduce to include people like maybe Dawn and Dr. Mary Edwards. You know what I mean? I don't even think Dr. Mary Edwards thinks he's innocent. I think she just wants to promote her podcast. And I don't know that Dawn thinks he's innocent, but Dawn has been going around saying that she doesn't think he got a fair trial. Now, she's the guy's mom, and maybe she's always going to think that. But then again, this is the same person that called her SUV and stolen when she knew darn well her son was out driving it. Maybe she didn't know what he was doing, obviously, but she was trying to cover her bases. A lot of people think Dawn should be charged, but we could talk about that another opportunity. But within that wide gamut of people that are coming out in defense of Darrell Brooks, I would say a very, very, very small minority of them think he's innocent. Other people are more concerned with the fact that maybe the jury wasn't as impartial as it was. I think it was. Some of them think maybe a venue change should have happened. Many of them think that Judge Joro should not have allowed him to represent himself. That is his right. That is his right. And again, there's a wide range of people within this group. But a lot of people in this group, what they do is they will tell me to stop talking about this trial. That's sort of like their unifying code, their unifying message, stop talking about this trial. And I would imagine that if they're saying it to me, they're probably saying it to the other channels that are talking about it. And so it's one of those things where you guys sometimes notice I'll come out maybe once every month and a half, 2 months, and I'll come out and I'll say, should I continue doing this? It isn't really that I'm fishing for super likes or that I'm fishing for subscribers or that I'm fishing for comments or likes or anything of the sort. I'm legitimately concerned with whether or not I should continue. This is a small channel. It's a tourism channel. We talk about music. One of the things in the title today is Dave Portnoy. The reason that I include Dave Portnoy, I was just in South Florida last week. I went to my favorite pizzeria of all, Morrow's Pizza on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood, Broward County, Florida. And I got to tell you, that's the best pizza in South Florida. Many, many years ago, 20, 30 years ago, they had a place called Cazzoli's. Cazzoli's was the best pizza in South Florida at 163rd Street Mall. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Cazzoli's doesn't exist anymore. Another time they had Casino's Pizza on 19th Avenue in North Miami Beach. That was the best for a good while. Casino's Pizza, Cazzoli's Pizza, they're gone. Maro's Pizza now, Mauro, Maro's Pizza on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood, Florida, is the best pizza in South Florida. You good, bro. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Thundering the Lightning. I appreciate that. Very Metallica-esque type name there. And I got to say, though, Dave Portnoy would really like it. But here's the thing. If Dave goes there and he gets the slice, he would have to let it cool down. If you pick it up, they will give it to you right off the oven. It is a little floppy. It is a little like kind of stringy. Pips, I'm in San Antonio, Texas. You want amazing Mexican food? Come to SA. Absolutely. The Alamo's there. Remember the Alamo. But if you let it cool down, that's exactly the kind of pizza that Dave likes. Paper thin, crunchy, good undercarriage, great cheese, great value. They got all of 3 little tables outside. It's not meant to eat there, but if you get one of the tables, you're great. You're right next door to a weed shop and a psychic, a fortune teller, and you could see Hollywood Circle across the street from Twin Peaks. Remember the Alamo? Absolutely. It was like 150 Texans against like 5,000 of Santa Anna's Mexican army troops. And they lost, but man, they held out there for a long, long time, and it's a beautiful historic site, even though Ozzy Osbourne peed on it. But the reality of the matter, though, he was out of his mind. He didn't know what he was doing. Kind of like Joe Biden a lot of times. He doesn't know what state he's in. But I'm a Democrat. I can say so. But I'm going to really hold my nose. I don't think I'll vote for that guy again. But in any event, let's not talk politics. Not going to talk politics. But, yeah, so I just think that that'd be a great place for him. And I love One Bite. Everybody knows the rules. I love Dave Portnoy. I love his pizza reviews. And I love when pizza owners come out and get all nasty with him because they don't want him around their shop, probably because their pizza sucks. In any event, so that's enough about that. We've talked about Dave Portnoy. We talked about Mauro's Pizza. I was just in Glasgow, Kentucky last week. I put out a video, a walk in Glasgow. I was in Munfordville as well. I put out a walk there as well. But, so I got to tell you, San Antonio is great. Even though Charles Barkley makes fun of San Antonio women, Charles Barkley is an absolute nutcase. But it's all in good fun because San Antonio is a place to be. And I would definitely go to San Antonio for some good Mexican food. And what I really want to try is Tex-Mex, which is the Texan. It's like, well, Pips knows because she's from San Antonio. But in Texas, you've got good Mexican food, but then you got good Tex-Mex, which is Texan and Mexican, and it's a fusion. I live in the UK. I really miss good pizza. Now, I wonder in the UK where you go for good pizza. The UK, to me, it would be like a culinary just smorgasbord of stuff because I got to tell you, London is a very, very international city. Manchester, Birmingham, Blackpool. I mean, there's a lot of places there. There's a lot of history there. So I would be very interested. And because Britain's got Welsh, Scottish, Irish, a lot of stuff, English stuff going on in there. And then it's like a rockstro from mainland Europe. I mean, it's just basically the French Channel, right? So we're not talking, it's just, I would love to go to the UK. I've never gone. I've never been across the pond, so I really think I'll check it out. And I love so much music that came out of Britain. The Smiths, the Beatles, obviously, Oasis. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that has come out of there. So anyways, but I'm vegetarian, so it kind of limits what I can have, but there's a lot of stuff. And anyways, so with regards to Darrell Brooks Jr., guys, there's one thing I want to ask you, and that is if you guys have subscribed to Everything Else channel, which is a secondary channel. I've got tons of Darrell Brooks stuff on there and Dr. Mary stuff. And eventually I want to do 2 lives a week, one here at Sight Sounds Flavors, another one over at everythingelseChannel.com. Thanks for the content about sewer rat Darrell Brooks. Absolutely, Elizabeth Fort. I appreciate that comment. I got to tell you, I really don't like Darrell Brooks at all. And I don't think any of you guys do either. I truly love to go to Scotland. I am a member of the San Antonio Scottish Society, says Pips. Absolutely. I think that's amazing. And there's so much heritage in the UK. There's heritage everywhere. But I mean, you talk about Britain itself, and most people, when they think of Britain, they just think of England, and it's more than that. Do you think he will get killed? Sean Malone. I don't know. I don't know because Um, I don't know. I don't wish that upon him. I want him to. I want him to live out his life in prison because to me that is what a life sentence is all about. You know, and so if he checks out early, I think that that deprives justice from taking place. You know, a lot of people when they think of a life sentence, they think that you're getting off, free and clear, and you're really not. Capital punishment, uh, you know, is a lot more, and this is a very interesting topic. Capital punishment is a lot more finite. Obviously, you're executed to death. You're the state is carrying out the death sentence, and it seems like that is the more fitting punishment for really heinous crimes. On the flip side, though, life imprisonment by some is considered cruel and unusual punishment. In some countries around the world, they don't do that. In some of the Nordic countries that are so progressive, like Sweden, I believe, and Norway, if you commit capital murder, intentional premeditated murder, you're only going to do like 10 or 15 years maximum. He's under protection because of his last court case for Erica. Okay, good stuff, Elizabeth. I didn't know that. So if he's under protective custody, then he can't because they're going to monitor everything. And he's probably high profile. And so that's probably not going to happen. But, in some countries, life imprisonment is considered cruel and unusual, and they won't allow it. I think that life imprisonment, honestly, it isn't the death penalty. And to a certain extent, he will have probably everything he needs, like, health care. He may have access to education. He'll have 3 hots and a cot. I get all that. But what he will not have is he will never be able to walk down the street a free man. He will never be able to leave there. He needs to know, he will know that the only way he's going to leave there is dead. And so I think that it isn't the panic and the terror of being executed, but it's knowing that your forever is that. And I think that in a way, I think that is justice being done. You're right about that. After everything is over with Eric Patterson, he will go into a tougher prison. Yes, absolutely, he will. And this whole demeanor that we saw, Sean, in the court and how abusive he was to those poor bailiffs. We a lot of times I don't think that people really realize, but those are hardworking men and women just trying to do their job, trying to go back home to their families. And even though these prisoners don't have firearms, they make all sorts of weapons. They use bodily fluids. They bite, they scratch. These are very, very dangerous individuals. And even though you would think, your bailiffs and your COs, they have guns, they've got uniforms, they've got, control, if you will, of a facility, they're at as much risk as a police officer walking a beat or, doing a tour in a car overnight or on the highway. I mean, and some may argue that they're even at greater risk because whereas a police officer may come into contact with 1 or 2 dangerous people during a tour, do you think if he had been in a state that has a death penalty? I think so. I think he would have gotten it. Absolutely. But whereas a police officer may come into contact with 1 or 2 dangerous suspects during a tour, COs are surrounded by dangerous suspects. So, but where I was going with that, the facade that we saw, I think he values his life. That's why he fought so hard to stay out of prison. But if they would have had, yes, absolutely. I look, if we were in a death penalty state, he would have received the death penalty. I'm 100% sure of it. But then again, you look at Nicholas Cruz in Florida. He didn't get the death sentence, and they have one. Nicholas Cruz was the guy that the 20-year-old from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who killed so many students and wounded so many students, and he did not get the death sentence. It's just one of those things. It just you would think that he would have gotten it, but then again, you just never know. Bundy could have saved himself from the death sentence if he accepted a plea deal, which is insane because Ted Bundy killed so many women, and I believe he killed one man as well. But he could have been spared had he taken a deal. Because he was a law student and because he was very, very articulate, even the judge said, if under different circumstances, I would have been proud to call you a lawyer in my court. That's how good of a lawyer he was. Even though he didn't graduate law school, he went to law school and he was so sure of himself. But had he accepted that deal, he would have been spared. So even though I would think that if there was a death penalty option available, Darrell would have gotten it, it's never a sure thing. However, getting back to my point though, the Darrell Brooks that we saw in court, staring down Judge Joro, being abusive to the bailiffs, being nasty to the prosecution team, is not the Darrell Brooks that we would see, to Sean's point, when he goes to a tougher prison. Because I think that Darrell knows from his experience in prison before and from his thoughts about going to prison in the future, especially given the heinous nature of his crime, that he's got to be a little paranoid himself. I wonder if he will ever know why he did what he did. That's a really good question also, Sean. And that's a really good observation as well. Sorry, death sentence, Kimberly Martin says. Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big death sentence guy, but there are certain crimes where I think is 100% justified. I mean, it's justified across the boards, but where I would feel comfortable with it, and this would be one of those cases. And the fact of the matter is the point that he had zero remorse. You know, he had no remorse. He was combative. And when he said things like there's suffering on both sides, that to me meant that this guy really honestly didn't care. I think that Sue Opper hit the nail on the head, folks, when she said that Darrell Brooks Jr. showed more animation, more reaction to a Reddit post than to the suffering of the people he hurt most. And that to me spoke volumes. He literally was more worked up about a Reddit post than he was from all the victims, all the survivors that took the stand. Don't forget, this is a guy that rolled his eyes, nodded his head, mumbled under his breath, while people talked about how he killed their loved ones. So I think that in a case like this, the death sentence would have been a green, a go, a let's do this, let's do it like it was yesterday kind of thing. It's where there's remorse, where there's true empathy, true pain, and because there are people, for example, that have committed crimes in what's known as a heat of passion, or that have diminished capacity, or that were so zonked out on drugs or so wasted on alcohol that they honestly, they were not deemed insane, but they weren't all there. This guy was all there. This guy wasn't drunk. He wasn't stoned. He wasn't on all sorts of medications. He fought with a woman who he had stalked, who he had beat, who he had terrorized, who he had groomed. He had a fit. He didn't like being yelled at by her friend. Her friend could have beat him up. I'm talking about the larger female friend. And he also didn't like having to have words with Nicholas Kirby. He got in his car, had a fit, and took it out on innocent men, women, and children at a Christmas parade. And that's it. But he doesn't care. He really doesn't care. And so to me, sending a guy like that to Old Sparky I wouldn't give it a second thought. I really wouldn't. And you're talking about a guy that was raised Catholic, and Catholics, we don't like the death penalty very much. We try to avoid it at all costs. But I would have voted for a death penalty in a heartbeat for a guy like that. But to Sean's point, you never know. I mean, you would hope that prison staff would protect him. I want prison staff to protect him. I don't want another inmate to rob the victims and the survivors of justice. You know, him getting off in prison is not justice. Him serving a long life in prison without being able to get out, that's justice. To me, him, you know, hitting the eject button or having someone hit it for him robs the families of justice. That's why when what was his name? Ariel Castro, the guy that kept those 3 girls in the basement of his house for 20 years and even had a child with one of them. You know, he got sentenced to, like, in Cleveland, I believe it was, he got sentenced to like something like 800 years as well. And he checked himself out. He couldn't even do a month. So, you know, again, there's something to be said about life in prison. It's not the death sentence, but a lot of these people, they just can't take it. But for Erica Patterson to have been so terrified of him, he ran over her. Yeah, that's the thing. He'd used a car before. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, that's pretty insane. I mean, that's you know, using a car as a weapon once to a normal person should put the fear of God into them to never do it again. And Darrell did it again. And he took it to a whole other level. But I don't know that he's going to be able to put up with months and years of being in prison. That's right. You're absolutely right, ND Grandma, one of our regulars. When Sue Opper called him a scared little chicken, you know, that, and there's something about Sue. I mean, Sue was like a master speaker in a way, because she was able to I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but she was able to like change the intonation of certain words to really like just like stick it to Durl. Like when she said defendant, that's not how she normally spoke. When she said scared little chicken, if you hear the whole 2 or 3 sentences worth, but then you just kind of like focus where she says scared little chicken, she says chicken in a like her pitch goes up a little bit. And I think it's all calculated. I think she was like a master strategist. I think that she knew exactly how to get this guy worked up. I think his mother and grandmother need to be put in jail. Well, I mean, Sean, you know, what Dr. Mary Edwards did was basically have an infomercial. And that's so wrong on so many levels. And Dawn, you know, I feel like Dawn gets a little bit of leniency, not leniency, a little bit of, I think she gets a little bit of leeway because she's his mom, and any mom would be distraught. So I give her a pass in a certain regard for reading A Caged Bird Sings. It was so wrong on so many levels, but as a distraught mom, I give her a pass on that, even though it was absolutely ridiculous. I give her a pass on crying. I give her a pass on trying to explain to the court that Darrell had anxiety and whatever issues he had. I give her a pass on all those things. Because a mother will, that's why serial killers, hardened criminals, they will always want a hug from their mom. 99.9% of them, they might kill everybody, but they'll never raise their voice to their mom. So I understand that. But what I don't forgive is Dawn calling her car stolen. What I don't forgive is Dawn coming dangerously close to being an accessory after the fact. And given that we're talking about a heinous crime such as this, makes me wonder why she didn't get charged. And then the pictures. Sending Darrell these 2 pictures. Did Dawn know that he was going to use them to somehow make her an incredible witness, to somehow question her honesty? You're right, Love Always. She was an enabler. I have a video titled that. 100%. Now, I don't know if Don knew what the photos were going to be used for, but there's a lot of people that also say that someone close to Don is who got Darrell Brooks Jr. into the whole sovereign citizen defense to begin with. So again, I don't know to what extent Dawn was involved, but I do know that an awful lot of people think she should have been charged, especially enabler mama who blamed society for Darrell's behavior. Absolutely, that's the thing, and that's why when she got on there and she said we need more for mental health, it almost seemed like she was taking a dig at the state of Wisconsin, the country maybe. At some point, responsibility's got to fall on Darrell. So yeah, I 100% think Dawn was an enabler. And that roommate, honestly, I don't know what to make of her. I should have put more in here. I didn't plan for this. I just said, let me just jump on here and do it. So I think that basically, and that's why she gets no passes from me, says Love Always. Even if Erica had sent the pics, that would hardly have made her a liar. You're right. But she didn't. Dawn did. And Darrell tried to pull a fast one on the court. Even with mountains of evidence against him, he was still trying to lie his way out. It's kind of like when he was left in the interrogation room alone just for a couple of minutes, and he could not help but pick up the phone and see if he could make an outbound call. That is Darrell Brooks Jr. Even after killing all those people, injuring and maiming all those people, wreaking havoc, he still had the appetite to eat a meal from McDonald's. And the second the cops left a room, he just couldn't help himself to pick up the phone and see if he could make a call. He wasn't crying. He wasn't distraught. He wasn't on watch. I bet you. Thank you very much for that, Max Mueller. Very much. Grounds for the sustain. I appreciate that. I know that this sounds incredibly messed up. And maybe some of you will think that I'm messed up for thinking about this. But I have a feeling that the night Darrell Brooks Jr. was in prison, after everything that he did, I have a feeling he probably slept pretty well. I have a feeling he probably woke up the next morning asking when breakfast was going to be served. I honestly don't think that Darrell Brooks Jr. has ever had an oh shit moment. Excuse me for cursing. I think the S word is no longer a curse word. But I don't think he's ever had that moment where he said, what have I done? And the only time he cried in court was when he thought about his people, meaning his family, his friends. That's why he said there was suffering on both sides. One of the worst things he possibly could have said. Darrell probably will die without admitting what he did or feeling any guilt. Probably. I mean, he was trying so hard to push all these random theories like maybe there was somebody else. Maybe it wasn't him. It's scary. Thank you very much, Kimberly. I appreciate that very much. Guys, I appreciate the super chats. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate the super chats. But beyond the super chats, what I appreciate the most are my regulars coming on here. Because you guys are why I do this. But thank you for the super chats. And regulars that do super chats, thank you for that. And Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll do this. But I'll actually have like my pad, and I'll actually have notes, and I'll have more to drink so I won't start getting all scratchy throat. And I'll also look at some of the best comments. Best is subjective, but comments that stand out to me, and maybe talk about them. And I'm also going to start plugging people leaving the comments. I used to like to ask people first if I could give out their screen name, but it's very hard to communicate with people through comments. And so I'm just going to go ahead and share. And unless, if somebody really doesn't want me to mention them, I'll go back on the video somehow and I'll mute that part out. You can do that. You can do all sorts of things with videos now. But I want to give shout outs to people like ND Grandma, which I don't know if ND stands for North Dakota or not. I've been there also, but she is a regular. Max is a regular. You know, Pips is a regular. Kimberly I've seen here and there, and now she's been all over this live. I mean, there's a lot of people that are regulars, and honestly, I just, you guys are what I do it for. And so I really, really want to answer your comments, and I'm so happy that you guys joined me. I don't know how many people have come through today, but it's been really cool. And the super chats, that's awesome. I mean, I tell you something about the super chats, and please don't send me more. I appreciate what I got, and I'm not saying it to get more. But when I got my first super chat, it was really cool because I had done a video where I had said, I got a bunch of these like people that I don't know if they think Darrell's innocent, if they feel bad for him, they woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't know. Oh, you're brewing your tea. That's amazing. I don't know if it's sweet or unsweet, but I love iced tea, and they're both great. It just depends. I sometimes go unsweet. I sometimes go sweet. If you ever get Georgia sweet tea, real Georgia sweet tea, it'll leave your gums smacking. It's that sweet. But I got to tell you something. I got inundated at one point in time by people saying, stop talking about this. This is old news. It's that camp of people that whether maybe they think he's innocent, maybe they just, I don't know, whatever. And I put out a video and I said, guys, I don't know if I should keep talking about this. Remember, I had a whole, sweet, there you go, my girl. But I had a whole bunch of videos last year, 10, 20, 30,000 views. And they were making a couple of bucks here and there. But I don't do this for the money. I thought maybe that I was going in a direction that my audience didn't want. So I just got rid of all of them. You know what I mean? I got them saved on external hard drives, but I'm also not going to re-upload them because they're old now, and now I've got different perspectives. But I was on the verge of doing that again, but I said, you know what? Let me hold off. How can they think he is innocent if there were eyewitnesses to the crime? It's one of those things, Juanita. It's one of those things where I don't know if it's conspiracy theories. I don't know if people are just in denial. I don't know what it is, but exactly. There's eyewitnesses, there's video. I mean, what more do you need? But still there's people out there that, and then you've got your groupies, which I don't really want to get into, but you know that Darrell's going to have them. Richard Ramirez, a Night Stalker, had him. Ted Bundy had him. The Gainesville Ripper, I went to University of Florida, the Gainesville Ripper, Danny Rawling, he had him. Danny Rawling got married to a true crime author, Sandra London. I mean, it's a whole world of loonies out there. But I made this video, and I just said, hey, should I stop talking about this? And they got my first super chat. It was like for $10 or something. It could have been for $1. It didn't matter what it was for, but and that was like and it was a regular that did it. And it just gave me the wherewithal to say, look, there's going to be people that don't want me to cover this. There's going to be people that do. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Well, Kimberly, I echo that. I would throw up 3 times just like you did. But the thing is, there are groupies, and there are serial killer groupies. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It's vile. But they're there. Charles Manson had them, for crying out loud. And they murdered a pregnant woman. Shannon Tate, I believe, was pregnant at the La Bianca murders. And I don't know if Manson himself did it, because he always said he didn't do it himself. All right, he didn't do it himself. He brainwashed his cult members, and they did it on his orders. And he had groupies. And they would write him letters. They would send him commissary money. You had rock stars like Brian Warner, a.k.a. Marilyn Manson, who used part of the guy's name for his stage name. So the reality of the matter is that Darrell, and the other thing is, I mean, we got to be honest here. Darrell Brooks' music is trash. I mean, I don't like rap, but I can tell you it's trash. And people that do like rap, they say it's trash. But, yeah, the Manson murders were terrible, horrible. But maybe in 10 years for the next generation, not for this one, but in 10 years' time, I could see some spineless rock bands, spineless rap groups, spineless whatever group, taking one of those ridiculous Darrell Brooks Jr. songs, remaking it, putting a bunch of overdubs on it and packaging it out for shock value. I could see that. Now, the Son of Sam laws would apply and the victims' families would get the money, and that at least is something. But as Americans, and I don't really include myself in this, but there is a certain fascination with serial killers and gangsters and mobsters and just jailbirds, whatever. I mean, how many documentaries? I just saw a really good documentary. I think it was on Netflix, and it was like 3 seasons long on the O.J. Simpson murders, and he got acquitted. And people just can't stop watching that. It's one of those things where it's disgusting, but there probably already are groupies. You know what I mean? I mean, Alex Murdaugh. Have you guys seen the pictures he's been posting? Like bare-chested pictures in his prison cell. Is disgusting. He looks like an albino. Nothing wrong with albinos, but who wants to see a middle-aged, obese albino doing OnlyFans-looking photos from his prison cell? I mean, it's just not a good look. I mean, he was probably sending those pictures out to, conquests of his, fans of his. I wouldn't want a bare-chested picture of Alex Murdaugh, but maybe, some, I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, how he got off is beyond me. Well, he hasn't gotten off yet, but he's going to get a retrial. And he may get off. I mean, that's a guy who's going to get a fresh chance. He's going to see all the mistakes that were made for the first trial, and they're not going to make them again. And who knows? I mean, O.J. Simpson is guilty. Oh, you were talking about O.J. O.J. Simpson is guilty as sin. And he got off. And maybe Alex Murdaugh will as well. There's no way Darrell Brooks Jr. is getting off. Never. It will never, ever happen. You know how sometimes people say never say never? Well, I'm going to say never. It'll never happen. But he's going to have groupies. There's going to be books. Our kids, our grandkids are going to ask us about it. And you know how I know? Because it is so heinous and so vile that it won't get forgotten. He was 100% guilty, and he got off, and he can never be tried for that again. So in any event, guys, I really appreciate it. I'm getting a little tired here. It's a little late in the day. Thank you to all the regulars that stopped by. Thank you to the super chat folks. I appreciate that. We're going on 48 minutes, so I'm hoping that, if anything, you guys will also, OJ and Casey Anthony, so guilty. Which one is Casey Anthony? I'm not familiar, but I got to check it out. And then, of course, Sarah Boone, I believe is her name, the suitcase killer. I did a couple of videos on her. I don't know whatever happened to her trial. There's a few trials that I'm looking at. So I mean, maybe I'll start covering some other trials, but for now, let's call it a night. Thank you for stopping by. Sight Sounds Flavors live here at the Sight Sounds Flavors YouTube channel. Guys, please head on over to everythingelschannel.com. Just type in everythingelschannel.com, hit enter. It'll take you there. Subscribe. We're 48 subscribers away from hitting 1,000. And I really want that channel to join Sight Sounds and Flavors so we can have lives on both. And I think it'll be a really, really cool thing. Kimberly, thank you so much for the sweet dreams. Pipsky, thank you so much. Good night to you as well over in San Antonio. Now I want Mexican food. And I'm not going to get Mexican food anywhere near as good as San Antonio here in Louisville, Kentucky. We got a lot of cool things, but we can't have Mexican food that holds a candle to San Antonio. So maybe I'll head over there at some point because Sight Sounds Flavors is a YouTube channel. Of course, it is a YouTube channel. It is a travel channel on YouTube. So I may just go over there at some point. Mexican food we have, absolutely. And Tex-Mex also, Texan food, which I really, really want to try. A lot of people don't understand what that means. I know you do, but a lot of people don't realize that Texan, it's like Mexican, it's American, it's a fusion of both. And it's a really, really cool thing. So again, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you to my regulars. Thank you to my regulars and the super chats. Absolutely Tex-Mex too. Thank you guys so much. And please subscribe to Everything Else channel on YouTube. And I'll see you Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the first official Sight Sounds Flavors YouTube chat. Oh, I remember now. That was terrible. And here, last thing. Here in Kentucky, we have got Brooks Hauk. He killed his girlfriend, Crystal Rogers. It's been an unsolved murder for about 8 years. For 8 years, this guy's been walking around doing construction. They never found the body. There have been FBI specials about it, unsolved crime specials about it. Crystal's mom has been posting pictures all over for her daughter for the last 8 years. The whole community knew this guy did it. And this year, just about a month ago, they arrested him. And it was because a confederate of his in the crime ratted him out. And so whenever that trial starts, I will definitely cover that. That's in Bardstown. That's 40 minutes from here. Look up the Crystal Rogers murder and Brooks Hauk, and it's his brother was in the police force, and it was just a real stink. And now it looks like justice is finally going to get served. That's going to be a major trial to watch, the Crystal Rogers murder. So be sure, look her up. God rest her soul. Who knows what she went through, but thank God Brooks Hauk has been arrested, and he's in custody now. So who knows if he'll admit to it or if he'll get some dream team. His family's got a lot of money. They probably will get the best lawyers money can buy, and it might be another one of these like O.J. Simpson type, Alex Murdaugh type trials. With Alex Murdaugh, if they had not found that Snapchat video, he might have been able to get off those 2 murders. It's just pretty crazy. All right, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I am Christian Duke. Thanks for tuning into Sight Sounds Flavors here for our live chat. I will see you Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here. Get your questions ready, and we'll see you then.